Mortgage rates have exploded. The housing market is crashing. There's obviously economic crisis that's going on right now that everybody knows about. Not everybody's talking about it the right way. Now, I'm out here at Vid Summit. You may have seen my video earlier, but I've had the opportunity to connect with some of the best content creators and smartest people in the space. So I want to introduce the Economic Ninja.
Hey everybody, how you doing? That's all I got.
That's all you got. It's a good start.
Okay.
We got Kevin here. We've done some content before, but all of us are in the similar space in that we have to be prepared for what's happening next.
Yep.
So the goal here is to empower you with the best information so that you can go out there, make the best decisions for yourself, for your family, and for your financial bottom line. I'm really curious what your thoughts are on the, let's call it the housing market, and start there and kind of let you rip.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I've been talking about economic cycles to my friends, family, community for the last, 15 years for sure. And I've always held the belief that we are going to see well over double-digit mortgage rates in my lifetime. And I believe that now where we are, we're going to see that in the next few years. And when I say double digits, I actually mean over 20% mortgages. Ooh. And a lot of people, they don't understand that this can actually happen. In 2015, a mortgage in Russia was around 40%, right? And people don't realize how important the bond market is, not only central bank policy, but the bond market itself, because the central banks of the world aren't the only buyers and sellers of bonds. And people don't understand how that works. There are private individuals and corporations that issue bonds and buy bonds and transfer bonds. And when the bond market snaps, when it breaks, and we're in a massive multi-100-year cycle on the bond market, when it snaps, it's going to snap bad. And human emotion is going to take that up. And when we see over 20% mortgage rates, get ready for some deals.
Well, first of all, we were going to cap at 15. I thought we were going to see it at 15 and actually see some changes in the market, but 20%, that's going to be a big deal.
Well, I've been calling for 10% by year's end. I mean, I think that's very realistic.
Absolutely. So I thought I was calling for 8% in January by year's end. Now we're going to see 8% probably in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. 10% is going to be incredible.
So now there are strategies you can use to decrease your interest rate. And I'll do videos on that moving forward in terms of seller credits to buy down rates and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So there are strategies that can be employed if it's right for you to buy now. But while we've got the Economic Ninja here, you just touched on some things that I think are very important and not enough people are talking about.
Well, now I'm thinking about seller buyback credits because this gets me, this gets me excited because when I started investing in real estate, my first rental property was in 2001. I paid a little over 8% on that property. Right. And back then it was difficult for sellers to find buyers because we were just coming off the .com crash, coming out of 9/11. There was a lot going on in the market, and those were the opportunities, like you said, to be able to identify a seller that was stressed and say, hey, what a better way to make my life easy, make my interest rate cheaper, and have you buy down some points. That was awesome.
Yeah, 100%. So in the market we were just in, and if you've been on my channel for a while, we talked about the dynamics of the market and how it was an insane seller's market, and sellers had 100 contracts, and they could go out there and get the multiple much higher than list price depending on how aggressive the buyer was. The solution we had for buyers in that tight market is we'd play some games. Yep. We'd make their financing deals look like cash deals. There are all kinds of strategies that we employed to make sure our buyers got their contracts accepted, and it worked. But not every realtor knows how to do that. In this market, in this now going to be extreme buyer's market, I think you'd agree.
Oh yeah.
You have to do the same for sellers. So what can you do to, just like you said, what can you do to create an opportunity for a buyer right now that makes them want to buy your house when interest rates are at 7+%? Well, can you get that rate to 6? Can you get it to 5? Can you get it to 4? And the truth is, yes, you can. You have to be creative and working with the right professionals. So I kind of went off on a rip.
Dude, it is, yeah. So you said something very interesting. Sometimes making a financing deal looking like a cash deal. Most people do not understand that there are companies like Better.com that specialize in doing exactly that, making a financing deal look like a cash deal. And for the last few years, all I heard was all these cash buyers. I'm in California, right, where my brokerage was one of the hottest places. As a matter of fact, my county has the highest priced gas in the country.
What are you at, $70?
Huh? Oh yeah, well right now I'm $7
okay,
for diesel.
Right.
And the point is that we saw all these cash buyers, and I knew they were fake. And a lot of people are about to be fooled. I ran into Vanilla Ice a couple weeks ago, and I was trying to get him on my channel to talk about his old home flipping show, because in 2008, all he was flipping was mansions sitting on the water in Florida. And that was the exact same narrative in 05. Look at all these cash buyers.
Yeah.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And the thing is he was flipping those things, and it was the great story, the best home flipping show ever, because it showed that they weren't millionaires. They weren't wealthy people. They were middle class, upper middle class people that were broke as a joke. They looked rich, but they're not. And that is what is about to like really come out to the forefront.
So you're talking about the wealth effect. So right now there are a lot of people out there that feel wealthy, and I've talked a lot about this in this channel, but that's not real wealth, right? So
No.
and so I'll give a real-time example. And that's what got me talking about these new topics on this channel. Is I had a client call me up almost crying. My 401k got cut in half. I don't know what to do. Should I sell my home? And I went through what I did as a stockbroker to give him some clarity and context and make a better decision for himself, and we solved the problem. He told me, Chris, you got to start talking about this stuff on the channel, which is what I'm now doing. But while I've got you here, I've watched enough of your content to know that you are very well versed in this space, but I'm curious. So pensions, you mentioned earlier. There's going to be a massive crisis in the 100%.
Yeah.
The stock market. So I love when people talk about technical analysis, and we are at a technical bottom and this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about a fundamental crisis, which is where we're at now. Not just in the stock market space, not just in the real estate space, in the everything bubble that's about to pop. You want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, let's talk about the oh crap bubble. And
Yeah.
that really what happens, you could talk technical analysis all day long, but when someone hits the panic button and the emotions, I grab my money out of the bank, I start selling my 401k because I've just lost a bunch, that panic move, that makes it worse because more people jump in and exacerbates the problem. So let's just give you an example. CalPERS.
I don't mean to cut you off, but so we're talking about a run on banks.
Yeah.
Well, that couldn't happen. People seem to forget. People only remember what happened in their lifetime. But if you go back 500 years, if you look at what's happened in other countries, and it's predictable, and it happens 100% of the time, the rise and fall of nations, based on taking too much debt and a lot of these things, it is possible, and it's happened in the past, where banks fail. And we've seen that happen before. I remember as a stockbroker, with the prime rate, we broke a buck. I don't know if you remember that. And a lot of companies that thought that these products that were insured and could never go beyond a buck, broke the buck, and those assets were frozen. And investors were terrified, and the government bailed them out. But they didn't know if they were getting their money back.
Sometimes you got to read between the lines. And a phrase or statement is that can't happen really means, God, I hope it doesn't happen.
That's a good point.
But it's bound to happen based on the things that we're doing, that we're doing right now, that have happened over time.
Yes.
It's almost inevitable, in my opinion.
Yeah, and pensions are already failing. CalPERS, largest state pension in the country, they are failing, and I can prove it because they used to be 3% at 50. Then they went to 2.5% at 50. Now I believe they're even lower than that. What it means is that they're paying out less benefits to new employees over time, because they don't have the money to support that size of a workforce retiring. That is a sign of failure. Now, it's a slow failure. Here's another failure. CalPERS needs, I believe, off the top of my head, I want to say it's 7% gain in the markets year over year just to pay the current beneficiaries. Well, guess what? In June, this last quarter, they lost, I want to say 6%. Don't quote me on that. But my point being is that was the first quarterly loss in, I believe, 12 years. CalPERS cannot handle too many of those losses because as of right now, if they don't make a positive return, they physically can't pay anyone. So what do? They start selling assets. And they've been doing that in the last year. Again, another sign that the pension system is failing. And what's really sad and scary that most people don't know, and I have a lot of subscribers that are pilots on my channel. Everywhere I go fly, a pilot recognizes me. It's so crazy. It's so cool. But it's because I did a video on the Supreme Court ruling in 2006 that Delta and United, a handful of airlines, were literally physically allowed to steal everybody's pension, and it was gone, wiped out, absolutely gone. And you don't realize that. You think, but you promised me. Well, tell that to the employees of Solyndra. Tell that to this one company. It was a small company, just joking, largest on earth at the time. It was called Enron. Gone.
I was just going to bring it up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People get comfortable, and I'm sure, you probably talked about this on your channel too, right?
Oh yeah, we talk about so many different things, but the simple fact of the matter is that most people, honestly, they don't even know what's possible, nor do they realize the fine print of most of these documents and agreements and things that they sign that doesn't that no one's going to present to them up front and saying that, yes, it all looks good as long as everything's good, but if everything's bad, we're going to take care of ourselves first. You guys are left. Good luck.
Yeah, like the Bernie Madoff.
Which you even
Yeah, so I shared a story recently where back in the financial crisis, I was working with the client, an elderly couple, really nice. They reminded me of my family, and they were looking to transfer accounts into me for me to manage,
Gotcha.
right? And so they believed they had several $1 million in this account. And this is back before technology. They were a little bit older. They FedEx and their account transfer statements and their account statements to me.
Okay.
But they believed in their mind that they had millions of dollars.
Did it
that's
say
what they
millions
invested.
of dollars on the statements?
No, it said zero.
Oh.
But they couldn't bring themselves to believe or accept the reality of what the paper said.
Did it at one point have millions? And it just
Oh no, it had millions of dollars in it, and they were
they thought
zeroed
they
out.
still had them.
And they believed they still had it.
Oh,
and
that
so
breaks your heart.
it was devastating. And so I had to. I was the unfortunate bearer of the bad news. But it was my job, and I did my best to walk them through what next steps were. But at the end of the day, this is an elderly couple in their 70s who worked their whole life for these multi-millions of dollars that are now zero. And I don't say that to scare you, but that's what is very possible in this next cycle that we're going
Well,
to.
I don't. You're in a bad position as a real estate agent. I'm the worst real estate agent in the world. I'll tell that first off.
Well,
foremost.
first of all, let me tell you why I'm not in a bad position. Because it's always a good market for something.
No.
Right?
Let me finish, because this is what I mean. You're about to deal with a bunch of sellers that in their mind have become wealthy. The wealth effect of real estate. And science has proven the wealth effect of real estate is much stronger than the wealth effect in stocks, all right? Because people hold so much value in the value of their home. You are about to have to deal with a bunch of sellers that were thinking about selling their house. Now they're starting to see news stories of, what do you mean sales are plummeting? What do you mean there's excess inventory? Oh crap, we better make that move now. Martha, grab the title, let's go sell the house. They're gonna have to go talk to you, and they're gonna go, why is my house not selling? And you're like, well, there's a lot of homes hitting the market. And they go, and we might have to take a price reduction. And a lot of people, explain that to me.
Now, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
There are 90,000 agents in my market, and of those 90,000, only 1,000 do 10 deals or more a year. So
Wow.
there are a lot of people out there that have no clue what to do as it relates to pricing a house, marketing a house, selling a house, or even transacting business. But what we do is tell the truth and always create a market within a market so that home sells and always gets the highest and best from the one buyer on planet Earth willing to pay more than anybody else. So irrespective of market conditions, we would never even work with a client that was not willing to work with us on pricing, giving the market
living
conditions.
in reality,
Right.
living in the now. And you know what's funny? So you started a YouTube channel, and that really, if you think about this too, when you're looking for an agent, look at an agent that not only has experience, but thinks outside the box. And what you're doing with real estate, when I met him, I told him, I said, man, I am so glad I don't have my real estate brokerage right now doing what I do, because I wouldn't even be able to fathom the workload, because what you're able to do is reach such a broader market for buyers, right? In your position.
Buyers and sellers. So look, we're talking about a lot of topics here that are that will be very fearful, create fear and uncertainty, and there's going to be a lot more of that in the future.
Yeah.
But the truth is, if you are prepared, then you can, and willing to accept the reality of what the market is, because the market is always right. Doesn't care what I think, doesn't care what you think. The market is always right. And as long as you are aware of what those conditions are, you can make choices to benefit yourself, your family, and financial condition, no matter what the market is. So when there is great volatility, where there is great weakness in anywhere, there are always opportunities to capitalize, but you have to be smart enough to be able to pivot into whatever those situations might be.
Perfect. Let me add on that. You need to, when times get, he said fearful, right? Let's look at it a little different way. When times are good, it's a narrow way of thinking. Everyone's going to make money if they do one thing. If the housing market's hot, you buy a house, it's going to go up. Stock market's hot, you buy a stock, it's going to go up.
Let me jump in real quick.
Yeah.
Any idiot can make money in a bull market.
That's right.
It does not take a genius to jump on a trend and make money in crypto, in the stock market, in anything. When it's good, when everything is good, everybody's a genius.
Yep.
When things aren't, what does it say? When the tide goes out,
all
find
boats
out
sink, yeah.
all boats sink, but you find out who's not wearing pants. Well,
And I've got pants on, I have proof. He doesn't, I do.
I'm wearing shorts, baby.
So what my point is that when things go bad, what you need to do is simply broaden your horizons. Stop looking at the one house you have going down in value and start looking at all the houses you could buy under value. And that's what's very important. So many people are like, oh my gosh, my greatest asset's going down. Okay, copy. Let's do this. Why don't you be the 1 out of 1,000 that goes, I'm going to buy up all their stuff. And then I'm going to sell it back to them when it becomes worth something again, or worth more. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah.
And so I've been talking a lot about that in this channel, which is, look, if you must buy a home now, and if it's right for you now, the market that I serve in South Florida tends to be an affluent area, but make no mistake, there are plenty of affluent people out there that overspend. So if you make $1.2 million and you spend $1.3 million, well, you're in trouble. But not everybody lives that way. So I do believe there are sections and markets within markets that are going to be more insulated than others.
Yeah.
But I'm also aware that if you are, long way of saying, if it's right for you and you have done the financial analysis of what the future looks like for you based on your needs and your circumstances, then absolutely buy a home if it checks all the boxes. But if it doesn't, then don't buy a home, right? And we can get in, I'll do more content in the future on buying down rates and how you can make it more optimal for you now if it's right for you now. But I've talked a lot about keeping your powder dry. And what I mean by that is if you are prudent and responsible and opportunistic and you're ready for when these things, and Warren Buffett says this all the time. If you find something that you want to buy and you would buy it, you would hold it for the next 30 years, which is what he's done and how he's made a fortune.
Yes.
Then you wait for the weakness, you wait for the panic, you wait for the fear, and you capitalize on that weakness. So when Bank of America was trading, was going to go under and it was at $2, what did he do?
He stepped in and bought.
Right.
But he also did with railroad stocks too. He's a cycles trader.
Absolutely.
So he bought the railroads at the bottom of the 2008 crisis while shipping was at its lowest, the dry Baltic index.
Right.
And those are the kinds of things that you're talking about, especially with real estate.
Right.
Oh.
Long way of getting to where I was going with this, which is in the future, you will have the opportunity to get half-price homes or maybe even better than that.
Yeah.
And if you can create the opportunities and pick up 10 doors, 100 doors, 1,000 doors, you've set yourself up for generational wealth forever. And that's what I think we're going to see in the next cycle.
How many doors are you going to buy? You got a goal?
She's got a goal for sure.
Yeah?
It was already part of our plan anyway, moving to Florida,
Yeah.
that we were going to pick up our primary and pick up some short-term rentals.
Yeah.
But we're seeing the market taking a shift downward, which is
Yeah.
allowing us the opportunity to buy more for less. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, with the rates going up, you got to have perfect credit.
Yep.
But besides that, you want to keep your principal balance as low as possible. And for us, and if you can, avoid mortgages altogether and pay cash.
100%. Now, you just said perfect credit. So mortgage rates, I don't know what they're at today. When I last looked, they were 7.03, I want to say.
I think a crap ton is what it just hit today.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
crap ton.
so they're exploding astronomically, right? Okay, that's if you've got perfect credit, you're getting that score.
Yeah.
If your credit is not perfect and you do not have all of the things that you need for a perfect interest rate, which again is now at 7+%, you're probably getting 8% right now. You could be getting 9% right now, depending on where you're at. So there's a lot of preparation that needs to go into if it's right for you now. But I think you've got a more informed and a bigger understanding than most as far as the cycles that we're about to go through.
This is really bad, actually. So what's happening right now, the 10-year bond is actually going up exponentially because a sovereign country, Japan, just announced it's liquidating their U.S. bonds because they are imploding their currency. That is literally putting upward pressure. So not only do you have the Federal Reserve raising their Fed funds rate and banks pricing in risk and going, well, why not keep raising interest rates on mortgages, because why would I give you money if I think that asset's going to fail in the near term when I could put money on loan to the Fed? Well, you have that going on top of Japan. Now we're seeing the Bank of England. We only need to see the Bank of England say we need to start selling U.S. Treasuries. Oh, I can't even imagine what the 10-year bond would do. I mean, it gets me super pumped and excited. If that makes you fearful, you need to take a couple breaths and think about the opportunity, all right? And if you are new to this concept and what we're talking about, then you need to seriously spend some time, not on TV, on YouTube, learn from people that are in this space, professionals like these gentlemen that know these cycles, and start to learn rather than get fearful and run for the hills.
And absolutely subscribe to the Economic Ninjas channel.
Awesome.
He is the best of the best. Absolutely subscribe to Kevin's channel. And
all capitals. It's Kevin. Yeah.
So don't get confused. It's not me, Kevin, but you can meet Kevin by subscribing to Kevin's channel.
Yes.
But let me ask you this, because I know we're all over the place talking about a lot of things, but so we got this Ukraine war, right?
Yep.
Ukraine is the primary provider, I want to say, of grains for the world.
I don't remember the percentage, but it's a high percentage.
I want to say it's like 80%, or
I don't think it's 80. It's high.
It's
It is
high. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So fine. They're at war. They're most likely not thinking about how do I plant this next crop of seeds, right? Of grains.
Well, they're
right?
being allocated on fertilizer.
Well, they're absolutely not, and some of their silos have been destroyed by Russian attack. So, I
Right.
mean, it's just multiple compounded.
Okay. And so, what is the typical? What are those grains used for primarily? Well, it's to feed the livestock of the rest of the world.
Yep.
So what do you think is going to happen? If you think inflation on food is bad now, what do you think it's going to be like next year, the year after?
I know what it's going to be like. It's going. I mean, it's going to be like you. No matter what you do, you go sit down for a meal. You're paying $30, $40 a person, a pop. You go to a grocery store. You're going to spend $400 or $500 a visit. It's going to get to the point where the food insecurity and the food shortages are going to exist for the simple fact that there will be less of it, but it's going to cost so much that people, the average working class, middle class, those who felt wealthy from whatever assets or investments they may have thought they had, won't be able to afford it.
And so if you're a family and you're a homeowner and things are very tight, and now the job market is not what it once was, and you're starting to feel like, wait, maybe my job is at risk and your financial future may be at risk, but okay, fine. It comes down to the brass tacks of, are you going to make your mortgage payment on your declining asset? Are you going to feed your family?
Well, you don't have to worry about it because Jerome Powell told you to worry about it.
You are going to feel pain, he said. You're right.
Which tells me he doesn't even think what's happening right now resembles pain. Which tells me that at some point in the future, which it hasn't happened in my market, and I don't know that it will, I don't know how it will be felt in my market, because again, I think I'm in a unique market, but it will certainly put a lot of people in a position where they're forced to sell. And we haven't seen those, we haven't been in a market of distressed forced sales in a very long time. But make no mistake, it's coming.
Well, you have a high retirement number in your community, right? So you have to think about fixed income.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's one thing. Just like the people that came into your office that thought they had millions of dollars instantly did not. What do they do with their spending? They retract, right?
Right.
So it could affect, especially with all the Airbnbs. I know you're in Destin, right? Mm-hmm. And Destin is a hot market for Airbnbs, condominiums, things like that. But all of a sudden, they're not having all of those rooms booked. And I'm seeing the numbers, specifically in that town, start to decrease for how much they want overnight. And it's not just a seasonality change. So I'm really interested to see what happens because travel and leisure is going to get hit hard.
Of course.
It already is in hotels, things like that, non-essential business travel. And that's what's going to be really interesting. As people retract their spending, again, you don't want to get scared. You want to get prepared and be saving up cash. Dry powder, like you said. Oh, in Florida, I don't know, anything's dry. I sweat my butt off. But
There's sharks in the street in Miami.
Seriously, just walking, man, it's hot out. Seriously, I get an air conditioning here.
Yeah.
But yeah, get ready for it. It's going to be big.
Yeah, and so listen, I want to thank you both for taking the time out to have this conversation. I would love in the future to be able to connect with both of you and talk more about these issues. Yeah. And if you're even thinking about moving to or living in South Florida, you've got to give me a call, text, DM, send a carrier pigeon, a smoke signal, by any means necessary. Because I've got your back when it comes to moving to or living in South Florida. Now, please subscribe to both of their channels.
Yes.
Thank you, Economic Ninja.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And we're out. Peace.